The light from Kate Morgan's phone cast a bluish glow over her tired face, the only illumination in the cramped, dim apartment. The refrigerator hummed steadily in the corner, louder than usual now that it was almost empty. On the pull-out sofa, 4-year-old Zoe and Zach slept tangled together, small chests rising and falling in sync. They had no idea how close everything was to falling apart. Kate's fingers shook as she typed out a list in her notes app: milk, eggs, bread, peanut butter, apples, chicken thighs, pasta, tomato sauce, cereal, baby wipes, children's fever reducer. Her gaze lingered on the last item. Zoe's low-grade fever had hovered just below worrying since yesterday. Kate had been stretching her last few dollars for weeks. Tomorrow's paycheck from the diner wasn't coming in time to cover rent, let alone groceries and medicine. "Just get through tonight," she whispered. It had been her private mantra for the last 2 years, ever since the twins' father walked out of her life. She opened her contacts and scrolled for Maya, her neighbor who sometimes watched the twins and had offered to pick up essentials on her way home from the hospital. Kate's vision blurred with fatigue as she tapped a name, pasted the list, and typed, "Hey, hate to ask again, but could you grab these on your way? I'll pay you back Friday. Promise." The twins are almost out of everything. She hit send, set the phone aside, and sank into the sagging armchair. The reply came almost immediately, startling her. Weird. Maya was usually still on shift this late. Kate picked up the phone and froze. The message wasn't from Maya at all. It was from a number she hadn't seen in years but would have recognized anywhere. James Walker, the twins' father. Her ex-boyfriend. The man who'd vanished when she told him she was pregnant. The man who had since become one of the country's youngest tech billionaires, his face occasionally staring out from magazine covers while she counted tips to feed their kids. "Kate, is that you? Are these our children you're talking about?" The phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. She'd meant to delete his contact long ago. In the chaos of surviving as a single mother, she never had. And now, with one misdirected grocery list, he knew. She snatched the phone up again, hands shaking, mind racing. Before she could decide what to say, the typing dots appeared. "I'm sending you money right now. Check your account in 10 minutes. We need to talk." Talk. After 2 years of absolute silence? She typed, deleted, and retyped half a dozen responses before settling on, "There's nothing to talk about." The reply came fast. "I disagree. I just looked you up. Those are my children, aren't they? The ones you never told me about?" Rage flared through the shock. "Never told you? I told you I was pregnant. You said, and I quote, 'That doesn't work with my 5-year plan.' Then you blocked my number the next day." The dots flashed, disappeared, reappeared. When the next message arrived, it was nothing she expected. "That's not what happened." Kate let out a bitter laugh that sounded too loud in the quiet apartment. "I lived it, James. I think I remember. Check your account." She opened her banking app, more to end the conversation than anything else, and clapped a hand over her mouth to keep from gasping out loud and waking the twins. A pending transfer glowed on the screen. $500,000 memo. For the twins, $500,000. More than she could earn in a decade at the diner. Enough to change everything. A real apartment with separate bedrooms, quality daycare, fresh food instead of box dinners and discounts, new clothes that didn't come from thrift store bins, even college funds. And attached to it something much more complicated. James Walker wanted back in. Another message appeared. "I'm flying to Chicago tomorrow. I want to meet them." Kate's protective instincts roared awake. "No. You don't get to abandon us and then waltz back in because you feel guilty. It wasn't like that, Kate. Please just meet with me. Hear me out." "Why should I?" "Because there's something you don't know. Something that explains everything." She snorted aloud. What explanation could possibly make abandoning your pregnant girlfriend reasonable? But beneath the anger and years of hurt, curiosity pricked, along with a stubborn buried piece of her that still remembered the earnest, passionate programmer James used to be. One meeting she typed at last. "Just you and me. The twins don't know you exist, and it's going to stay that way until I decide otherwise." Fair enough. The Peninsula Hotel. Noon tomorrow. Private dining room. Kate's eyes drifted to the pull-out sofa. In the glow from the streetlight outside, Zoe's cheeks were flushed with fever. Zach snored softly beside her. For 4 years, Kate had been their entire world, protector, provider, comforter. She had built a fragile stability around them. The thought of James shattering that terrified her. But $500,000 sat in her account, and another truth gnawed at her. She had never fully stopped wondering how the man she'd loved had turned into a ghost, then into a billionaire on magazine covers. Fine. Noon tomorrow, she wrote. But I'm not keeping this money unless your explanation is really damn good. The next morning passed in a blur. Kate called in sick to the diner. She dropped the twins at Maya's with profuse thanks and a bag of groceries she'd bought with a tiny withdrawal from the new funds. Back home, she stared at her closet and realized she had nothing even remotely suitable for the peninsula. In the end, she chose the black dress she'd worn to her mother's funeral 3 years earlier. It hung looser than it used to. Stress and skipped meals had chipped away at her once strong frame. She twisted her hair into a neat bun, applied the bare minimum of makeup. She refused to dress up for the man who'd left her at her most vulnerable. The peninsula's gleaming facade made her feel even more out of place as she walked in. She gave James's name at the host's stand, and the hostess's demeanor shifted instantly from polite to deferential. "Mr. Walker is expecting you, Ms. Morgan. Right this way." The private dining room boasted floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. And there he was. James Walker looked even more polished than his photos. Dark hair perfectly styled, tailored suit fitting like it was made for him because it probably was. His green eyes locked onto hers as she entered. For a heartbeat, Kate saw Zach in his face. The same determined jawline, the same faint furrow between his brows when he focused. The resemblance she'd spent years refusing to acknowledge slammed into her. "Kate," he said. Her name carried emotion she couldn't untangle. He moved as if to hug her, stopped himself, and extended a hand instead. "Thank you for coming." She ignored the hand. "You said you had an explanation." "I'm listening." He gestured to the chair opposite him. "Please. This isn't something we should discuss standing." She sat but stayed perched on the edge of the seat, ready to bolt. "I have exactly 1 hour before I need to pick up my children," she said. "Our children," he corrected softly. No, her voice was iron. "Mine. You forfeited any claim when you disappeared." He flinched as if struck, pain flashing across his face. "That's what I need to explain. I didn't disappear, Kate. I didn't abandon you. Or them." She laughed, short and bitter. "Sure. The last 2 years of me doing everything alone while you turned into a billionaire? I must have hallucinated that." "Kate." He leaned forward, intensity in every line of his body. "I never knew you were pregnant. I never blocked your number. And I never talked about any 5-year plan. Someone else did." She just stared at him as he pulled out his phone. "And I think I know who," he added quietly. He placed the phone between them and opened a thread. 2 years ago, I never got a message saying you were pregnant. Instead, I received this." He slid it closer. On the screen under her name was a message she had never written. "I can't do this anymore. I need space to figure things out. Please don't contact me again." "I never sent this," she said, immediately stunned. "I know that now," James said. "At the time." He raked a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up for the first time. For a second he looked like the James she had known, tired, brilliant, overwhelmed. "At the time it destroyed me. If I didn't send that, who did?" Kate whispered. "Thomas," James said, jaw tightening. The name hit her like a blow. Thomas Reed. James's partner back when they were building their data security startup. His closest friend since college. The one who'd always looked at her like she was a problem to be solved or removed. "Why would Thomas?" she started, then stopped as memory began stitching itself into a new pattern. Thomas warning James she was a distraction. Thomas urging him to focus on the launch. Thomas's thin smile when he thought she wasn't looking. "The company was days away from landing our first big investment," James said. "Thomas had always been intense, but I didn't realize how far he'd go to keep me focused." He swiped to another thread, between himself and Thomas. Kate read, horror mounting, as the text laid out Thomas's manipulation. He had intercepted her messages, sent fake replies from James's phone, blocked her number. To her, it had looked like James had shut her out. To James, it appeared she'd walked away. "He told me you wanted a clean break," James said. That you thought we were moving too fast. He said respecting your wishes meant not chasing you. So all this time, Kate said slowly, you thought I didn't want you in my life, that I just left. James nodded. I was heartbroken. I buried myself in work. The investment came through, then another. We grew fast. I was traveling nonstop. He met her gaze. It was easier to throw myself into the company than think about losing you. But how did we never cross paths? She demanded. Chicago's not that big. I moved to San Francisco right after what I thought was our breakup, he said. Thomas pushed hard for it. Said we needed Silicon Valley investors and connections. Looking back, he was making sure we'd never bump into each other. Anger flared hot and sharp. You never thought to verify anything, she shot back. To call me from a different phone? Email me? Show up at my door? You don't understand what it was like, James said, frustration edging his voice. We were working around the clock. The company became everything after losing you. And Thomas, he broke off, then went on. Thomas was like a brother. I didn't think he would lie about something this big. What changed? Kate asked. Why now? Why 2 years later? His expression shifted. Thomas is out of the picture. 6 months ago, I discovered he'd been siphoning company funds into his own accounts. When I confronted him, he blamed accounting errors. The board removed him. That still doesn't explain how you found us, she said. After Thomas left, I hired a new executive assistant to organize my personal accounts. She found recurring payments to a digital security firm. Going back 2 years. His voice hardened. I dug deeper. Turned out Thomas had hired them to monitor your social media, track your location, and, he hesitated, intercept any attempts you made to contact me. A chill ran through her. He was spying on me, she said. On both of us, James corrected quietly, keeping us apart. I had my legal team drag everything into the light, he continued. We found all the intercepted messages, including, he swallowed, including the one where you told me you were pregnant. The air went heavy. She'd carried the memory of that night alone. Typing the text with shaking hands, staring at the screen, waiting for a reply that never came, watching the blocked notification pop up the next day. She'd built her life around the belief that he'd chosen to leave. And now he was telling her it had all been engineered. Why? She whispered. Why would he do this? Control, James said simply. With you gone, I poured everything into Walker Tech. He became indispensable. Our success made him rich, but clearly not rich enough. He reached into his jacket and slid an envelope across the table. I brought more than texts, he said. I knew you'd want proof. She opened the envelope with unsteady fingers. Inside was a handwritten letter. Thomas wrote that after he was forced out, James said. He was furious. He wanted to hurt me one last time. He thought telling me what he'd done, how I'd missed my children's first years, would destroy me. His voice dropped. He wasn't wrong. The letter was vicious. Thomas bragged about cutting them off, about watching her struggle, about making sure James would never know about his kids. The cruelty on the page was chilling. By the time she finished, tears blurred the words. 2 years, she choked out. 2 years of thinking you didn't care. Of doing this alone. Of raising our children without their father. James reached across the table and laid his hand carefully over hers. She didn't pull away, though her whole body was tense. I can't get those years back, he said. For you or for them. But I want to be in their lives now. If you'll let me. Kate drew her hand back, the anger she'd carried for so long wrestling with the new truth in front of her. It's not that simple, she said. You can't just show up with $500,000 and expect to step into their lives. They don't know you. I don't know who you are anymore. You're right, he said. I'm not asking you to pretend the last 2 years didn't happen. I'm asking for a chance. She studied him. Under the polished surface, the man she'd loved was still there, now with lines of strain around his eyes, and a grief that matched her own. The money, she said abruptly. Why so much? It's a start, he answered. Back child support for 2 years. Plus what I would have contributed if I'd known. It's not payment for forgiveness. It's an attempt to do what I should have done from the beginning. She thought of every dinner she'd skipped so the twins could eat, of the hospital bills, of the nights spent calculating how many shifts it would take just to stay afloat. And if I use it, she asked quietly, what do you expect in return? No conditions, James said. Just one request. Let me meet them. After that we go slow. One day at a time. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A photo from Maya popped up. Zoe and Zach on her living room floor building a tower, faces serious with concentration. The text read, "Fever's gone. They're asking when Mommy's coming back." Kate stared at the image, at the echoes of herself and James in their faces. Whatever she chose next would change all their lives. 3 days later, the $500,000 still sat untouched in her account. Knowing it was there felt like standing on a cliff edge, salvation on one side, unknown on the other. In the tiny kitchen, Kate watched the twins eat cereal. Zach carefully arranged his loops into neat rows before eating each one. Zoe chattered about a dream she'd had with purple elephants and flying toast. Today, James was coming to meet his children for the first time. She had agonized over what to tell them. She wasn't ready to introduce him as their father. Felt too big, too sudden. For now, she'd chosen a partial truth. An old friend who had just moved back to Chicago. At exactly 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Kate smoothed her hands on her jeans and opened the door. James stood in the hallway, dressed down in jeans and a blue button-down, looking powerful and strangely uncertain. In each hand he held a small gift bag, one pink, one blue. "I didn't know what to bring," he said quietly. "The store clerk suggested these." She stepped aside to let him in. His eyes moved around the small living room, taking in the mismatched furniture, the scuffed floors, the toys neatly stacked in plastic bins. If he judged any of it, his face didn't show it. "Zoe, Zach," Kate called. "Come meet Mommy's friend." They peered around the doorway, suddenly shy. James's breath caught. It was visible in the way his shoulders stilled, in the way his hands tightened on the bags. He crouched down so he was at their level. "Hi," he said gently. "I'm James. I brought you something." Curiosity overrode shyness. They came closer. Inside the bags they found stuffed animals. A lion for Zach, a tiger for Zoe. Simple, thoughtful. Not the flashy gift she'd half expected from a billionaire trying to impress. "What do you say?" Kate prompted. "Thank you," they chorused. "You're welcome," James said, smiling, visibly relieved. "I thought maybe we could go to the park today," he added, glancing at Kate. "If your mom says it's okay." Kate waited for a beat, then nodded. "The park sounds good." The morning unfolded more smoothly than she could have imagined. At the park, James pushed them on the swings, raced them across the grass, helped Zoe conquer the tallest slide, and pretended to be astonished by Zach's architectural masterpiece, made of sticks and leaves. He never checked his phone, never seemed distracted. From a nearby bench, Kate watched, emotions twisting together so tightly she could barely breathe. He was good with them. Patient. Present. Every so often he'd look over at her. Eyes full of wonder and something like gratitude. After lunch at a neighborhood diner, where he cheerfully ate chicken fingers and fries because, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me, they went back to the apartment for nap time. Kate tucked the twins in, each clutching their new animal. "Is James coming back tomorrow?" Zoe yawned as her eyelids drooped. That question hung between Kate and James after she eased the bedroom door shut. "They like you," she said quietly. "They're incredible," he replied, his voice thick. "So smart. So them. You've done an amazing job, Kate." Her throat tightened. She turned away under the pretense of making coffee. "It wasn't easy," she said. "I know." His voice was low. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for not being there." Something in her chest cracked at the sincerity in his tone. "I thought you chose the company over us," she said, finally voicing what had haunted her. "That we just didn't fit into your life anymore." "If I had known," he began, then stopped. "What matters now is what we do going forward." He hesitated. "I've been thinking about that." She handed him a mug and sat across from him. "I want to be part of their lives," he said. "Not just dropping by sometimes. Really part of it." So, he took a breath. "I've bought an apartment in this neighborhood. I'm moving Walker Tech's Midwest office to Chicago so I can be here full-time. She blinked. You're moving your whole company for this? Not the whole company, he said, but a big piece of it. We'd already been planning a Midwest expansion. I just changed the city and accelerated the timeline. He set his mug down. But yes, I'm restructuring my life around the twins. Around all of you. Hope, dangerous, fragile, flickered inside her. There's something else, he said, pulling out his phone. Something I found out after the hotel. Her stomach tightened. What now? He scrolled and handed her the phone. The screen showed a series of grainy photos. Kate in a grocery store aisle. Kate pushing a stroller. Kate sitting on a park bench as the twins played. Kate unlocking her building's front door. These were on Thomas's company laptop, James said. Taken over the past 2 years. There are hundreds. She went cold. He was stalking us. I think his obsession went beyond control, James said grimly. I believe he was fixated on the life I could have had with you. My security team has been digging through everything. We found evidence that he's kept monitoring you, even after leaving the company. Her hands shook as she flicked through the images. Does he know you found us? She asked. That you know about the twins? That's what worries me, James admitted. I've already put discreet security on your building, but I don't know how he'll react when he realizes his whole scheme has unraveled. Kate glanced instinctively toward the bedroom. You think he might try to hurt us? She whispered. I don't know, James said. But I'm not willing to take that chance. She stood abruptly, pacing the tiny living room. 2 weeks ago my biggest fear was the gas bill, she said. Now you're telling me an unhinged billionaire might be targeting my kids. Our kids, James said softly. And I will do everything in my power to protect them. To protect you. The words settled between them, bridging years of separation. I think you should stay with me, he said carefully. At least for now. My new place has top-of-the-line security, cameras, controlled access, private elevator. Safer than this building. Move in with you? She repeated, bristling. With a man the twins barely know? A man I'm still trying to figure out. I understand your hesitation, he said. Just consider it. For Zoe and Zach. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She opened the message and felt the blood drain from her face. Such a lovely family reunion. James playing daddy to the children he never wanted. How touching. Attached was a photo taken that morning at the park. James pushing the twins on the swings, Kate on the bench watching. Zoomed in from a distance. Clear. Recent. He knows, she breathed, shoving the phone toward James. His expression hardened as he read the text. He pulled out his own phone and dialed. Security breach, he said crisply. Subject is in the vicinity. Implement protocol Sierra. Now. He hung up and looked at her. Pack essentials for you and the twins. We're leaving. What is happening? Kate demanded, panic rising. Thomas is in Chicago, James said. And he's been shadowing us. That kind of message means he's escalating. Kate sprinted to the bedroom. As she stuffed clothes into a duffel, another notification chimed. An email alert from her bank. She opened it and stared. The $500,000 transfer had vanished. In its place, funds withdrawn and moved to offshore account. She rushed back to the living room. The money, it's gone. It's been transferred out. James's jaw clenched. Thomas must have hacked your account. This isn't just jealousy anymore. He's making moves. What kind of moves? She asked, fear sharpening into fury. I don't know, James said. But given his obsession with you and his resentment of me. He broke off at the sound of metal in the hall. A key turning in the lock. A lock that should only have 2 keys. Kate's and the building manager's. James stepped in front of her, every muscle tense. Get the twins, he whispered. Fire escape. Go. Before she could move, the door swung open. Thomas Reed stood there, perfectly groomed in a charcoal suit. His smile was polite. His eyes were not. Well, he said, closing the door behind him with casual finality. Isn't this cozy? Thomas leaned against the door, looking from James to Kate like a man inspecting a painting he'd commissioned. I must say, he drawled, This has been fascinating to observe. 2 years of strategy undone by a misdirected grocery list. He laughed softly. Life is efficient when it wants to be. How did you get a key to my apartment? Kate demanded, putting herself subtly between him and the hall to the bedroom. Thomas twirled a key ring around his finger. Your building manager is very obliging when properly motivated. I've had access for some time. Nausea crawled through her. The thought of him standing in this room while they slept made her skin crawl. What do you want? James asked, voice clipped. At first? To remove distractions. Thomas nodded toward Kate. You were diverting your attention from our launch. Later, I'll admit, it became more anthropological. Watching the life you might have had if you'd made different choices. His gaze slid over Kate in a way that made her want to scrub her skin. And now? James pressed. Thomas's smile thinned. Now I want what's fair. Fair. James repeated. You lied to us for years. You stole from our company. You cut me off from my own children. And now you've cleaned out money meant for their support. I built Walker Tech as much as you did. Thomas snapped, calm veneer cracking. But who gets called the genius? Who gets the covers and the keynotes? Who's being floated for a presidential advisory role? He sneered. You took everything. I got a line on a press release. That was your choice, James said evenly. You chose fraud instead of work. Manipulation instead of building anything real. I'm not here to relitigate the past, Thomas said. I'm here to negotiate. Negotiate what? Kate asked. A reset, he replied. 20% of Walker Tech transferred to an offshore holding company I designate. My reinstatement as Chief Strategy Officer. Public acknowledgement of my pivotal role in the company's success. He listed it all as if reciting a grocery list of his own. In exchange, he finished, I disappear. No more surveillance. No more photos. You get to play family man without me lurking in the background. And if we say no? Kate asked, hearing steel in her own voice. Thomas smiled. Then I enjoy my archives. I have records that, taken out of context, could make your life complicated, James. Early-stage tax irregularities. Emails with less than savory investors. Maybe nothing criminal, but enough for regulators to come sniffing around. Enough to crater your stock. Kill your reputation. James didn't so much as blink. You're bluffing. Am I? Thomas cocked his head. Are you willing to gamble your empire? Your shiny new family? He glanced toward the closed bedroom. By the way, they're excellent copies, he said. The boy especially. You really can't deny paternity there. Kate's grip tightened around her phone behind her back. She had been slowly typing a message. Now she hit send and prayed Maya would understand. Call 911.
Dange Rosman INAPT.
Kids here. What do you want? James repeated, jaw tight. I told you, Thomas said. My do. Or I tear everything down. You really think you can stand here and threaten us with our children in the next room? Kate hissed. Thomas's smile faded into something uglier. You think I haven't been in that room? He said, voice almost gentle. I had to be sure they were real after all. Before Kate could lunge at him, a small voice piped up from the hall. Mommy? Who's that man? Zoe stood there in princess pajamas, tiger clutched tight. Kate crossed the room in 3 steps and scooped her up. It's okay, honey, she said, eyes locked on Thomas. He's just leaving. Thomas watched Zoe with disturbing interest. Hello, Zoe, he said. I'm an old friend of your mom's. And James's. Don't talk to her, Kate snapped. I've watched you grow, you know, Thomas went on mildly. First day of preschool. The time you fell at Lincoln Park and needed 3 Band-Aids. James stepped forward, putting himself between Thomas and Kate. That's enough, he said. You need to go. Now. Or? Thomas asked. You'll call the police? And tell them what? That your former partner dropped by? That he asked for what he's owed? Breaking into someone's apartment is illegal, Kate shot back. So is stealing $500,000. Prove it was me, Thomas said lightly. Good luck tracing those transfers. And the key. He rattled it. Your manager will happily confirm he gave it to me. No crime there. A firm knock interrupted them. Thomas moved to block the door. Expecting someone, he asked. Before anyone could answer, the door burst inward, bumping him aside. 2 uniformed officers stepped in, scanning the room. Behind them stood Maya in her scrubs, eyes wide, chest heaving. Chicago PD, the lead officer announced. We got a call about a possible break-in and kids in danger. Maya rushed to Kate's side. Zach's still asleep, she whispered, reaching for Zoe. I checked him, he's fine. Thomas straightened, trying to regain control. Officers, this is a misunderstanding, he said smoothly. I'm Thomas Reed, co-founder of Walker Tech. He gestured toward James. We're simply having a discussion. We're familiar with you, Mr. Reed, the female officer said coolly. You're under investigation in several ongoing cases involving stalking and harassment. What? Thomas snapped. That's absurd. My security team has been documenting his surveillance for weeks, James cut in. They've already submitted the evidence to your department. The male officer nodded. Mr. Reed, we're going to need you to come with us. You have no grounds, Thomas started. Actually, James said, pulling out his phone, we do. He tapped a file and played back the recording of Thomas bragging about having a key, about entering the apartment, about monitoring the children. Thomas turned a mottled shade of red. You set me up. No, James said quietly. You did that on your own. As the officers cuffed him and let him out, Thomas twisted in the doorway to throw one last look back at them. This isn't over, he spat. Yes, it is, Kate said, voice shaking but firm. The door closed behind them. The apartment felt suddenly too quiet. Is the bad man gone? Zoe asked sleepily, arms looped around Maya's neck. Yes, sweetie, Kate murmured. He's gone. And he's not coming back. Maya's eyes filled. I called 911 the minute I got your text, she said. Then I ran. You may have saved us, Kate said simply. After Maya left and both twins were tucked safely back in bed, Kate and James sat in the living room, the adrenaline slowly ebbing. It's really over? She asked. Thomas will face charges, James said. Stalking, breaking and entering, financial crimes. My legal team will make sure everything sticks. He hesitated. The money he stole. I'll replace it right away. That's not what I'm thinking about, Kate said. What are you thinking about? He asked. She looked toward the bedroom. Where we go from here, she said. How we explain any of this to them. How we make this work. One day at a time, James said. We start with truth. A version they can understand. That I'm their father. That I didn't know about them. That I want to be here now. And us? She asked quietly. What about us, James? He held her gaze. I never stopped loving you, he said simply. Even when I thought you'd chosen to leave, I couldn't shut it off. He reached for her hand slowly enough for her to pull away. She didn't. But I don't expect you to forget the last 2 years, he added. Or to trust me overnight. I just want a chance to earn it back. Whatever that looks like for us, for the twins. I don't know if I can trust anyone fully after this, she said honestly. I understand, he replied. But I'm not going anywhere. Whether we end up as friends, co-parents, or something more, I'll be here. She considered him, this man she'd loved, mourned, resented, and now slowly saw anew. We'll go slow, she said at last. For the twins' sake. And for ours, he said, a real smile softening his features, for the first time looking very much like the boy she'd once sat up all night with, dreaming big dreams neither of them had imagined would turn out like this. 6 months later, Kate stood at the window of her new apartment overlooking Lincoln Park. It was bright, roomy, with enough space for the twins to have their own bedroom, paid for in part by restored funds and court-ordered restitution. Below she could see James in the park, pushing Zoe and Zach on the swings. Their laughter floated faintly up on the breeze. After Thomas's arrest and conviction on multiple charges, life had settled into a new rhythm. James had followed through on everything he'd promised. Walker Tech's Midwest headquarters now lived in Chicago. His schedule revolved around school pickups, doctor's appointments, and shared weekends at the zoo. They'd gone to counseling separately and together. He'd faced his guilt and anger at being manipulated. She'd unpacked years of abandonment and survival mode. They'd both had to learn how to talk about the past without drowning in it. The twins, with the elastic resilience of children, had accepted their new reality with startling grace. Once they knew he was their father, they'd simply folded him into their world. Now they split their time between Kate's place and James's condo a few blocks away, both homes close enough to the park that they could run there in 10 minutes. Kate's phone buzzed. "James. Dinner tonight after they're asleep? Just us." She looked out the window again. Down below, he scooped both kids off their swings at once and spun them around, all three laughing. The sight tugged at something deep and long-guarded in her. She typed back, "Yes. I think it's time. Time to talk honestly about what had been growing back between them. Time to consider whether they could build something more than a workable co-parenting arrangement. Time to let herself believe in a future that included not just safety and stability for her kids, but maybe, just maybe, love for herself again." As she watched James toss Zoe into the air and catch her, Zach clinging gleefully to his leg, Kate realized that sometimes the worst detours led to the right destination. A misdirected grocery list had brought a ghost from her past crashing back into her life. It had exposed betrayal, danger, and secrets she never wanted. But it had also given her children their father, brought real security for their future, and reopened the door to a love she'd thought was gone forever. She stepped away from the window to start dinner, heart lighter than it had been in years.